My name is David Stanley. I'm coming to you actually from a subdivision actually over here of my office, extension of my office, you would say. This is going to be Trinity Publishers Rising, and it's part of the company I'm going to be starting going forward. I made a video not too long ago in regards to an issue that I had had with the Credit Crusader Army. And I want to make this clear. My brothers and sisters will always be in the Credit Crusader Army. We're a family. I will always be a part of that. But moving forward, I'm branching off into another division act called the Credit Corps. And in that, the objectivity is clarity in the world now that we face high inflation, taxes rising, a country that's falling apart, and unfortunate people that take advantage of that. Imagine when you're sitting here in life and you can't come back and say, okay, I'm going to pay for groceries today. I'm going to pay for my kids' medication. Seniors are having the same problems these days. So the few and far you find, and we did a study of this out of my firm, is less than 2% of honest companies. And what I mean by that, honest companies are not regulated or funded or supported by outside interests, woke environments, political agendas, and whatnot. Possibility of companies that will continue to do and break these laws or whatever they may do or promise something as bait and switch. Example, two companies right now, one company called DeRossi, another company called Infireman. Both companies during Mother's Day last year decided to run programs where they have another company they buy that has boxes loaded with roses in it. You can spell names on it. You probably see it on Instagram, whatever it may be. It takes you to a third-party website overseas. And then you give your credit card information, and then it goes into child labor. And child labor makes this box for you, unbeknownst to you as the consumer. And you get the item, and when you want to return the item or have a different kind of opinion of why you want to argue that item's not complete, they'll offer you $5 on your $45 purchase to keep the item. And what they've done is contract you to keep the item for $5, and that's it. You get basically a $35 and a $45 charge. The difference may be on your credit card. It may not be. They have your credit card information, and guess what? Your credit card information is now stolen. So now you're in a bigger position of where you find yourself like, what do I do? You have no one to complain to, no one to fight it over. You come to someone like my firm, and then we tell you, guess what? International law does not allow us to go across seas to do this because the business may have been conducted here to start, but it was closed out and tendered across seas. So today, we're going to be talking about that same situation in regards to Pinnacle Credit. And I want to be fair about this. This is not a hit piece. This is not any piece to destroy the CEO of Pinnacle. It's an exposure piece. Now, someone might say, well, this is unfair. Dave, you're doing this interview, and David Payne's your friend, and you've already vouched for him. Here's the thing. In this Army, very simplistically, if I felt Dave was a POS, I'd be going after him just as hard as I went after Mike Rando, Sean Rando, Uncle Mikey, the whole 9 yards. Dave took a position over 2 years ago to say, I want to try to fix my credit, see what I'm doing wrong or right. And he did that. And he was been overly an open book to everybody and helping people and striving to get somewhere they can in their lives, to buy houses, to buy homes, to buy cars. And a disclaimer to this too. Let me make it clear. David Payne doesn't work for free, but he does. And what I say is he takes every case personally, looks at it and sees if the person can or can't afford this or do this. He doesn't try to upsell them. He doesn't try to take advantage of them. He doesn't try to upsell them on a circle for $1,500 or $750 for expedited time. David's done the research, and he's the only one I know that I can honestly say out of the 2% that I've researched from Eastboard to Western Seaboard, anyone that actually doesn't take responsibility for their own work that they have and that they do themselves by mailing off things and items. David may be the only one that actually mails off challenges in the credit world. And people think that's ridiculous, but it comes down to the same theory I said before. If you're going to buy something overseas, do you know what's really happening? Well, David's doing it right in front of you, and he's showing the letters he's putting out. You'll never get that with any business of clarity and transparency. You can still say it's proprietary. And we've proven, and we've looked into too, even with our publications, the fact that the best way to challenge these companies is through letter and first-class mail. There's no way for them to deny it, say they didn't get the email, they didn't accept it. They signed for it. And this is the key to David's success in business, why he's done it again and again and again. So today, I bring to you actually the former, possibly could have been a sub-CEO of a company for Pinnacle Credit, contact to Andrew Nguyen. I ask you guys to welcome Mr. Kamil Faizi. Kamil, you there?
Ah, yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So I think the biggest question is that people have, and that can respect on another position too, is have you ever heard of what ACAT is, or was it brought up at any point with you running this business and being part of this business with Andrew Nguyen, I think is his name?
Right. So great question. I haven't heard of that term before, until I was watching one of your videos, to be honest. Um, but no, I've never heard of it before. But and just to kind of be clear, with what you're asking, I never really ran the business per se. I never really had that freedom to do that. And I think maybe that's a good place to start is these expectations were made and these assumptions were made on his behalf. And it was never really clear what I'd be doing. And asking anything wherein it would affect uh, uh, his company's either reputation or important decisions, I would be stonewalled. And it's asking him is like pulling teeth. And that started becoming more and more apparent about things.
Well, let me ask you this question. And if I go back to what you're telling me, then it's too is kind of almost a dichotomy of struggling. It seems like in the beginning of this business. So, if I may ask, how long have you known Andrew for?
So I have known him since 2018, and the reason why I even came across him is at the time I was in another business. So just to kind of give you some context, my primary business is I do promotional items, particularly something called a challenge coin, which you may be familiar with. United States military. My biggest customer base is the U.S. Navy. Love them to death. Marine Corps after that, and then the other branches, but mostly the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps. Okay, and at that period of time, my business was not nearly where it was as it is now. So I was actually selling identity theft protection on behalf of companies. So I was an agent. Okay, so I had a agent agreement in place with the company called ID Shield at the time. And so essentially, my base that I was calling was credit repair companies. So I said, "Hey, listen, I got something better to offer your clients. Commissions are good." That's how it came across this gentleman, Andrew. And so we started talking about that. And I said, "Listen, if you sign up as a, here's a program. You sign up as a affiliate, if you will. Here's what the commissions look like." And seems like he likes money to me. He agreed to it. We started talking about that and started getting a few sales, and then when I realized things really started going downhill from there because I started getting real big chargebacks. So I hope that answers your question, or would you like me to kind of continue with that?
No, you're good with that. I guess the thing I was going to interject on that. So 6 years on average, you've known him, and you said the Coin Challenge company. So that was your company, correct?
That's my company through and through. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're saying too, I guess you were working for ID Shield, is what you said?
Yes, sir. At the time, I was selling a product called ID Shield. Yes, sir.
For the few of us that are out there who are curious too, ID Shield and the business that you're there, I'm assuming that's like some sort of anti-theft, maybe software or subscription.
Similar. I think they have that now. But back then it was essentially what identity theft protection, identity theft, data breach monitoring. So basically, this company would not only give you your credit reports, but monitor your personal information on dark web and basically the whole gamut. Take care of you offline and online. And it was through a company called Kroll, which many people haven't heard of, but this was a company that I had affiliated with because I affiliate with companies that have strong, you could say, a strong story or have a strong sense of doing something the right way. So Kroll was a company that got called to restructure Enron, if you ever remember that.
Oh yeah.
They also Another big thing is they also, when the Twin Towers were going down, they were called to go get the gold reserves. So they're one of the biggest companies in the world for risk management, and one of their products was protecting consumers and companies from data breaches and hacks and basically all that terrible stuff. So that was a product I felt very confident in selling to the American public. And so that's what I was doing at the time.
Well, I have to say, I mean, it's always interesting to me too. Going back to an unfortunate day like that. Pretty soon here, I actually have an interview coming up with the director of Loose Change, who did the documentary on 9/11. If you'd be surprised, I might actually call you back on this one and have you come and give some information on it too. I'm always interested by the situations of businesses around that time that happened, the business that survived and the business that crashed. Um, my question would be to you, without stepping on any kind of toes to that affiliate business, what's the average price you were charging for that service? Was it a monthly fee, an annual fee, or a one-time fee?
So because I was an agent, I wasn't too much in control. When you're an agent for a big company, if they decide to change their name tomorrow, uh, you can't do anything about it. It's not your company. So it's a flat time monthly fee. They had two. Well, actually, they had two plans. One was 9.95 a month for an individual, and I think at the time it was something like 14.95 for a family. Okay, and so I was actually also offering this as an employee benefit for companies. So one of my mentors, Carl, great guy from he's also a Southerner. He's from Dallas, Texas. He taught me the ropes about doing this. This is the first professional start I got in the corporate world, if you will, with small businesses, approaching them and doing this. So it wasn't until I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't until I realized, wow, credit repair organizations are doing a great thing. I have really shitty credit, excuse my French,
No, you're good.
and I thought, you know what? I'm sure there's people who really need this. There's people suffering out there, have low credit scores because of identity theft. They don't know where to go. LifeLock sucks. They had some horrible publicity, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall those horrible commercials with the guy putting his social security out there, and he got breached maybe a million times, and he's still
Right.
getting
Right.
affected by it, right? Um, Now they're part of Norton, I think. So I knew there were companies out there. I knew that we're doing something better and offering something more affordable. So I made it my mission out there to get as many American consumers protected as I could. And I branched out and said, you know what, how can I go to different complementary industries, if you will, and protect people as I could. So Andrew, just one of the many business owners that I contacted in this process, and behooves me why I did keep in contact, but I think maybe that may start making sense later on as we continue our conversation about why
Okay.
I'll keep in contact with an individual such as himself.
No, I get it. I'm just trying to say the fundamentals of the business. I mean, it makes sense. To me, it seems like you were caught in the passion of helping people, which is obviously a good person based thing. I was going to say military based thing, but then I look at people like Dave, I look at Seeker, I even look at like also to Credit Crusader. There's a driven purpose behind it. And if you can actually capitalize off it at the same time, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's a pretty good profession to pick on. So I mean, that's probably why you were driven to it, or actually drawn to it, I should say.
Yes, sir.
Um,
I'd just like to add too, and sorry to cut you off there,
yeah.
if I did, about helping people. Absolutely. I've always had a passion for helping our veterans, okay? Um, Ever since a youngster, I remember my dad donating money to VFW
Oh wow.
and Vietnam Veterans of America, and that was always they'd always send all these things in the mail. I said, Dad, why are we getting free T-shirts? Why are we getting this and that? He said, Oh, this is for Vietnam Veterans of America. This is what they do, and so that kind of put me down that path of helping our most vulnerable population. I always think of is our veterans.
That's good
So
stuff.
when I
It
started my
makes sense.
challenge one
The coin
business, same
challenge one.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yes,
coin
sir.
challenge.
Yes, sir.
I
And that's what happened.
I had one of my first coin challenge, which to be funny. This was back in the day a little bit, but under the guys in Iraq at the time, being under Petraeus. And I remember, stone cold mentality, always smiling through what not the fob. And one time we went on a cult mission, and I remember there was actually this private that was just bitching a storm the whole time, right? Whiny little dude. Of course, I hate to be cliche, but it was the smallest dude in our unit. He was crying, whining this and that, blah 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 blah. We go over a wall, we get in contact. I had no idea the general had actually gone out on cult mission with us in our chalk. I had no idea that David Petraeus was in our chalk. And we went over a wall, and this kid had no discipline for sound, anything at all. Like giving off our location just by him bitching a storm and whining, why am I here? This is bullshit. And we're getting shot at, taking fire, not against the wall line. And there's easy, obviously, an AK-47 fire everywhere. And I remember went over the next wall and he's hanging on the wall screaming the whole time. And I kicked him right in the face, like kicked him boot and all. And mind you, at the time, I'm a staff sergeant, I'm an E6. And I thought to myself, this is going to be an NJP. I get back to base. I'm going to get scolded. I'm a dead man. I'm losing pay. I'm losing this. I'm losing shit, right? So as soon as we go to that wall, he's sniveling, he's crying. And I want to basically shut the F up. And we get to our rally point. We got through the mission. At the end, I feel his hand on my side in this crazy little draw voice. And I look over, it's General Petraeus. I got a general coin. He said, that was the best shit I'd ever seen outside ever in Ramadi ever in my life. And I was in shock. My face, I went white. I thought I literally, the first of my life, I was going to throw up. I'm all the freaking 4-star general of command of Genjat is here giving me a coin. And to this day, I have that coin, and I'm just, I'm blown by it. Yeah. So it sounds so childish to probably maybe like the civilian population people watching out there, but challenge coins have such a history back to World War II. They had the buttons from the airborne, they'd slam down, you'd see the bar drinking and whatnot. So it has its heritage. So I think it's pretty awesome that you're into that.
Yes, sir.
My next question to you would be second. I know it's long-winded on the first one. What is his name, really? Do you know? Is it Andre? Because I know you take one letter off, it becomes Andrew, but is it or why does he go by so many different names?
it's that that's $1 million question. I mean, I always knew it as Andre Gwynn or Andrew Gwynn or Andrew Rose Gwynn, one of the three variations of the names depending on who he's speaking to. And if I may also add, if he was having a argument with a customer, which was very, very frequent, oftentimes what would happen is he would make himself look like he was an employee and use another name or use my name or someone else's name. Use like, I can't remember now, but I remember that he would say, "Oh, here's our CEO," and use my name, make himself use a variation of his name, make it look like he's a processing agent or just an employee of the company. So maybe that's why. But again, I it's a mystery to me as well.
What state were you in when you were working for this company making these calls? You don't mind asking.
Oh, I was Florida.
Okay.
I was in
Did you meet
Florida.
him in Florida?
No, I've never physically met him. I recall that during that time when we were so-called working together, I was in Florida the whole time. He was based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And then I remember at some point later on, he had moved to New York City and was legitimately living in New York City at that time, and kind of going between different cities, if you will. But the tour I remember when I had met him supposedly was San Francisco Bay Area. Menlo Park is, I guess, where he grew up, from my understanding. He may have spent time in New York City. Uh, so I kind of remember talking to him about that. And then after that, his big move was basically to Vietnam.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure this out. Like when I tracked him, because he just made a most recent video, I think, where he says I have connections in California, Texas, New York, and Florida, and I was like, thank you very much. So now I know where to send all my process servers. And I thought to it, I was like, great. The moment this guy lands or he comes in, we're gonna know because he has a lot of victims actually where he started in California. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, because before Pinnacle, he had another company, or if it was the
Right.
previous.
I remember there was another company when he shared the details with me. There was one called American Credit Repair or something similar to that. American something.
That's the
American
one.
Credit Repair. And I remember there was a friend of his he used to refer to his ex partner that he had this company. So from my understanding at the time, maybe this is still current, maybe it's not, but he would get leads still from that company, and he'd be processing these leads from American Credit Company or Credit Repair. I can't remember the name now, but it's just so ever changing. But that was based out of California. I think the San Francisco Bay, Greater Bay Area as well.
Yeah, one of our people, actually two of our people in our group, had tracked that back down to like I think it was San Francisco Bay, San Jose area, and also the Fremont area of business where it was
San
conducted.
Jose. Yes, sir. San Jose.
I have victims of his, unfortunately, going from San Diego because obviously, just signing up whatever online at the time or by phone. So I was trying to find out the name of that nature of that business. But going forward, so you've never seen him. You guys have been in contact by phone, pretty much, email.
Yes,
Have
correct.
you ever FaceTime him at all?
Yes, I have. It was a few times in the past. I've made one of those mistakes where sometimes I'm I'm a nice guy. I try to give people benefit of the doubt. I think when you work with veterans and we work with people from our United States military, you know, I think I'm a bit spoiled because I'm used to the loyalty and camaraderie, and it's brushed off on me, okay? And unfortunately, what happens is I tend to expect that of other people, specifically the civilian population, and I kind of let my guard down around him, if you will. And so the FaceTime was more so, hey, hey, I need to call you real quick, or just it was like a video call, normal. Hey, you got a quick question, or hey, look at this, can you tell me more about how do I fill out this application, or I'm at this office here. So it was more so professional, if you will, not so much
Right.
personal, if that makes sense.
No, it
Um,
does. I think. Like, were you enlisted or were you an officer when you were in?
No, sir. So, I need to be clear. I am a contractor to the United States military. So
Okay. Okay.
I was never enlisted at any point of time or another, and I'm not going to lie about that. I've always been a civilian supporting the DoD's mission, the United States mission, because I'm a federal contractor as well. I'm registered in SAM.gov. My coins and some other products that I do, I offer also to bases overseas and in the United States. So I'm a civilian. It may seem like I'm a veteran, but it rubs off on you. And, I get
No,
that asked quite a
yeah,
lot, and I'm not going to lie about it.
yeah, no, you're very
Listen,
well versed when you're
yes,
talking.
sir.
I'm kind of like I
Thank you.
figured like you're, and the reason why I asked too is this: is do you happen to know if Andrew, by any chance, has he ever been part of the military also?
No, it doesn't seem like it, to be honest. It really doesn't seem like it. He talks a lot about how he could have been in the military, or he talks about how great the military is and the Marine Corps. Now,
He
I
talks
could
a
be
lot of
very
smack too on
mistaken.
the military. He talks a lot of he's very disrespectful to the
It
military
was
boys.
yeah, absolutely. It made my heart boil. It made my blood boil. You don't, you do not fucking talk about our military that way with what they're doing for us. Especially, I thank you for your service, by the way. It fucking offends me when somebody, because my biggest regret in life, I think, was not joining the Marine Corps or the Navy when I had the time. I had a Vietnam veteran selling steaks door to door, and he talked me right out of his eye. Anyway, that's a side story, but I think I kind of roll that into, don't fucking disrespect our military. Like, what's going on and what they're going through and the sacrifices they're making mean nothing. And you see them as a dollar sign, okay? And that, unfortunately, with my previous conversation before I had blocked him, I remember him saying, "Hey, if you're in the military, you're at this Navy base. How about we get you in uniform and you could talk about how great Pinnacle is, what you've done?" I said, first of all,
So he
if I'm
wanted you
at
to
a
commit. He wanted you to commit a federal crime by wearing a uniform and impersonating a Navy personnel enlisted to talk to other Navy members.
Absolutely. I don't think he really understood or maybe wanted to understand that I am not enlisted. I think he misconstrued the fact that as somebody who's embedded with the United States military, like as a civilian or going to bases, working with them, like a DoD civilian in that sense
Yeah,
as a
you're a TS
contractor,
contractor.
um,
Yeah.
he, he thinks that, you know. just because you work with the military doesn't mean you are in the military. Some people decide to misconstrue it. So maybe he's decided to see that as an opportunity to further his agenda to try to get that so-called money from uh the veteran population, the Marine Corps and Navy. Um, and he's one of those individuals you may try to explain it, but when he wants to stonewall you, when a certain individual decides to stonewall you, and when you speak to them about something, you get the picture. It's very um not only is it disrespectful, but you gotta say, okay, what gives? You know?
Right.
Um so I hope that answers your question. I apologize for
Yeah,
the
well, because it
tirade
is.
there.
I'm trying to understand. Like, it's hard for me to understand. It's like, again, I went back. Like, I know what you're saying. Strictly, I verified some things, like the San Jose to San Francisco to New York thing. I've looked at
Yes,
all
sir.
of these too.
Yes, sir.
When you're saying, I know it's true because I've seen it. Not only that, I mean, a lot of the easy stuff was look at Instagram he had from his past, things he'd done in his Facebook and whatnot. I guess I try to figure out in my mind when I'm looking at it, how this company was started. He made two things over the last month that don't make sense to me. Okay, where he says he posted a picture when he was younger. His hair was blonde at the time. I think he dyed it. He's standing in the board. Yeah, right. I know it doesn't look good on him. I'm not here to try to talk smack. I'm saying it didn't look good on him, but whatever. Right? Maybe he was trying to build a different persona when talking to people. Um, he seemed well versed in the subject matter talking about was on the board. But the more I looked into it, I'm kind of like, he's dogging one company to build that. But his comment on his own posting said, I remember 9 years ago, it was like yesterday. I'm like, well, and he says when I was 21. And I'm like, are you 21 or 30? Because he's claiming in some videos where he's in his late 30s and somewhere he's in his, early, like late 20s. So I'm like, do you happen to know by any chance, like how old this individual is too?
He's about the same age as me, 33, 34, 35 in that range.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the white
So
hairs on him, so I couldn't tell. I had a 25-year-old friend of mine that was a best friend when we got to Marsoc. Well, actually, at the time, it wasn't Marsoc. It was Recon in Okinawa, and he had the white hairs at 25, and I was talking smack to him, But it threw me off when I saw Andrew. I'm like, he's very up on the appearance factor, which we'll get into later on. But I just was wondering if you knew that or not, because it's questionable in a sense. But when he asked you
absolutely.
to do that, you obviously refuse to do that. You're a GS contractor, government service contractor. GS people think GS is a big code. It's a government service contractor, and it does
Right.
take
You
a
have to
lot to get those. It's not easy. I'm not going to take it from
absolutely. You have
anybody.
to be as transparent as fucking possible with the United
Oh, you
States
have to
government. And I
qualify
would
for a baseline security clearance, even go on the base.
absolutely, absolutely. And funny enough, I mean, I just got back from I just finished the Naval Expo, and when I was going around talking to all the defense contractors, I sent David one of the pictures, but I went on one of the USS Mobile, named after Mobile, Alabama, LCS 26.
Yep.
For people who don't know what that is, it's basically a small ship, uh, small cruiser. I met the commander
They consider it
of the
like
ship.
a baby cruiser, but it's
Absolutely,
got
baby
subs.
cruiser. That's right. So some veteran watching, they'll be smiling, especially with the Navy and Marine Corps. Um, so I get asked that a lot. I said, "Wait, you Lockheed or what?" I said, "Sir, this is a funny story. I do coins and I do pins, patches, all that stuff. But for all intents and purposes, United States government, I'm a military contractor supporting the mission. And I may not be selling armaments, though I wish I was. I'd be a multi-billionaire overnight. But this
Well, you'd
often
be at
means,
DARPA.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Maybe one day. But what has in common, what I realize is you have to everything in this business, in defense contract, in my business it's built on relationships. I've furthered my business, and the reason why I was able to increase my business by, let's say, 200% since I last got started in 2018 was because of those incredible relationships that I had. And that's based off trust, that's based off transparency, a lot like what you guys are doing, especially Mr. David here. You know, if you're not transparent in the military, they'll call fucking bullshit. They'll say, you're full of fucking shit.
Uh huh.
Fuck you, and you know what? Everybody's gonna find out about this. And it can go the other way too. Like, wow, thank you so much. My commander is going to be hearing about this. This guy's going to be hearing about this. And so I've decided, I'm dealing with our veterans, and it should be absolutely like back to what you were saying. This is 100% transparent business. You have to be on point. And if you are in a position to try to scam anyone, Uncle Sam will fuck you so hard. Sorry for my French again.
It's
You will
true.
get screwed so hard by the federal government. They will blacklist you. You will be also blacklisted with your taxes. You will be you do not mess around with the federal government. It's not like the civilian
Well,
world.
yeah,
So
quote unquote shitbags seem to still skim by here and there. In fact,
right.
the seeker has been diligent on nonstop, just going after Mike for anything he does. In fact, I got to give credit to the seeker. I started late on that secondary fight with Mike Rando. And David Payne has so much business going on now. He has for a while, which is really good. Obviously, proof's in the pudding. But the seeker was relentlessly going after Mike again and again and again. Like he tried to Airbnb scamming. And honestly, 2 weeks later, I'm telling the seeker about this. And he goes, "Oh yeah, check it out now." And I look back and all this guy's shit is gone. Like he's wiped off YouTube. And I feel that's the path where Andrew's going with what he's doing. The farther we go down this rabbit hole, as you say before, the military. He was talking about the military again recently about global like geoeconomics and whatnot. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I'm glad he's trying. He even admitted he's like, I don't know much about it, but he did say something factual that's not true in the sense of
Right.
military ships. I don't know if you heard. Like the thing is, the defense budget 40% goes to the Department of the Navy. The Marine Corps gets 1%. Now, mind you, I don't know every Marine walking this earth. Not every Marine knows of me, but I do know the MARSOC community. As big as it may be, we're very tight. So when he made a comment about how he knows MARSOC people, he knows Special Forces people, well, there's another ringer too, because again, I served in two branches of the military. I served in the Army and I served in I served in the Army and I served in the Marine Corps. So I was about to say Navy. Ooh, almost caught myself there. But because we're a department of Navy, I always hear that all the time, So it's habit. But I think it was kind of funny because he's talking about it. I talked to MARSOC guys. Nobody knows who this guy is. Um, I took an ad out that's literally coming out this next month. I'm going to post. You're going to see basically like all these scammers to watch out for. And Andrew hit the top of the list. I put on there. I paid for an ad, and I was really in shock because he has something where he says on his business profile that he worked for a state senator and attorneys and whatnot. I'm thinking to myself, you did what? So,
Well,
I
as
have
his
friends,
story,
I
you're
move
right.
forward
Yeah.
with contact. I look for the clearances on this guy, and nobody at the State Department knows who he is. So I'm thinking, well, if
Right.
you try to get that clearance to have access to senators, first off, and if nobody knows who you are, even by the three names I gave him, because I understand he goes by Andre Ross with some people, some of the victims that I have in California.
Correct.
So I kind of laughed going, wow, this guy goes that far to just bull-face lie, and just make something of himself that he's not, but nobody knows who he is. He talks about Navy ships recently. He made a comment about that, saying that, the reason why since World War II, our Navy ships are gone and dissipating now. China has more than us. I got news for you. To this date, and I can say this is public knowledge. You can probably Google it. We have more nuclear ships and activity in the U.S. oceans than China does at sea right now next to China. So I don't know where his math is coming from either. So when he says things like this, these are the kind of things, if you're a caliber of just general intelligence, you'll question it and go, what is this guy really trying to do? What is he saying? How could I trust this guy with my social security number in business? That's why I say going to that. He has a lot of your information. So explain to me the business ideas you had, if you don't mind, and telling the listeners in the sense of where the fallout started too, if you could.
I'm sorry. You may need to repeat the first part of your question. I think the audio
Oh,
cut out on my end.
Andrew, you guys had an idea of a business that you're going to start together, and I'm kind of wondering where that fallout happened.
Um, so I need to clarify that there was no misunderstanding. It's all sort of if you talk one way to me and say you want to do this, I don't necessarily have to be in agreement or I don't have to like okay, you want to do that, great. You right? I mean, sometimes conversations are two-sided, not one-sided. One of the things he discusses is taking profits from his credit repair business. So this was a few years ago talking to him is that you wanted to do Airbnbs. And the thing is, the reason I feel very used is in the sense of like a mule being used by a drug dealer, okay?
Oh,
And why I'm using that analogy, okay, is that you are essentially like an identity theft victim. I mean, that's really what happened here with the doxing. It started because he wanted to use people other than himself, their reputations, their ethnicities, their religions, and make it seem like he's this God-fearing, earth-loving, human loving, humanist who wants to help everybody he can. Look how diverse we are, amazing we are. We help so many people. And then what really fucking pissed me off is adding the veterans to that so-called equation. But that didn't happen until I'd say about this year. Um, and I think I'm sorry, the second part of your question you were asking, I
The
think
fallout. I would have to say, like, where did you guys think like the fallout? You know, like when you finally came to conclusions that this is not the person you expected who you were doing business with. This is not the person who you want to do business with. Like, what started that?
okay, so it started the red flags started happening when we were discussing my pay. I was never an employee with them. I don't have yeah, I don't even have a pay stub. Matter of fact, in 2018, I was in a point in life my business wasn't good, and I had $500 that I wanted to invest. We put $500 into road signs for credit repair, and he hired two guys in the San Francisco Bay Area to put down the signs, get clients, all that good stuff. Now, red flag number one, $500 isn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money to a lot of people. It's a lot of
Okay.
money to me, right? If you don't think $500 is
Yeah.
a lot, hand me 500 right now, okay? But red flag number one was the stonewalling. When I'm requesting something from you and you're a business owner, if you have any sense of justice, honor, duty, or any inch of that, and you're a decent human being, you'll have a discussion when I start a discussion if you are a decent human being. He likes to stonewall and kind of the thing is he goes on these tirades and stonewalling and he starts talking about his stuff I don't know, this is not meant as slander, but this is only meant as my direct observations with him over text and voice. But
Oh,
he has
absolutely.
this way of going over these. I don't know if these were drug-induced conversations and tirades he would have, but he would go. The screenshots that I provided may kind of go into it. He'd randomly start talking about Islam and this thing and that thing, and my background. I'm a Muslim. I'm not practicing. Um, and but he'd start talking about this or start talking about that, and it was irrelevant. When I'd get back to the topic, and
You
same
don't
thing
mind me
would
asking,
happen.
do
Yes,
you
sir.
think he was well versed in the Quran, or do you think not so talking to him?
Not so. It's kind of like when you take someone from ISIS or the Taliban misquoting shit or anybody from any religion. Um, I know that he had some interactions with people from Muslim countries. Okay, he says Indonesia, he says Malaysia, but I think it was more like uh flirting with women from the said countries or maybe
Oh,
but I do also know he had these instances with these scholars who were when I looked at it at that time I was really questioning what type of people these were. Like these were hardliners, seriously fucking hardliners. And
wait, he was.
uh
So, are you thinking he was communicating with higher level, like maybe imams that were funding something that should not be funded?
I can't answer that question, and not because I I don't have enough knowledge to say yes or no, but
Well, to help
from
help
my
help
direct
the
sure.
listeners break down your highlight. Would you want to say more than towards extremist? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay,
I
okay,
would say so. I would say so because if you're practicing of any faith, right, and you come out and start say as time went on, yes. I want to say yes. I want to paint the picture first before I kind of, I guess, fully answer that question, if you will.
okay, okay.
Um, so the reason why I say yes, I think more towards a hardliner thing and the imams and whatnot is I know that he dabbled in religion a little bit, and he claims to be revert or a convert, and that struck me number one as a, kind of another red flag, if you will. The stonewalling was number one, and then kind of like the religion thing was number two. I was like, what's going on here? I mean, he's trying to get on my good side. I mean, I'm not particularly religious, okay, and I don't know if David, you got to share those screenshots that I sent you from that one day. I don't know if you got to see those screenshots that I had sent from our last conversation before I had him blocked. But essentially, he's going on this tirade about, Islam this and how I'm going to burn in hell for this and that. I said, something's going on here. But this was in my first interactions with him where he would boast about being a really good Muslim and all this stuff basically. And but now that I put everything two and two together, I know these would have been hardliner people from Malaysia or perhaps Indonesia, and I started putting two together. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But oftentimes, yes, I mean, going back to it as well, what you were asking as things started falling apart is these red flags started adding up. So the stonewalling, the religion thing, I didn't know what was going on there. I didn't know if these tirades, when I would be asking these questions in a professional manner and treating him as a decent human being, okay, I don't know if that was like drug fueled because he would also talk about stuff like ketamine and this one drug you can find in Malaysia or something that's like green color that you take for your concentration or something. And so I do know, again, this is not meant as slander as any kind, shape, or form. This is meant as my direct observations and my interaction with him. But
Right.
I do know that he stays up pretty fucking late to work on his business and making his videos. I'm talking about 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. Okay, and then I would be getting these random fucking texts sometimes middle of the night about random tirades. I mean, whether it's religion or whether it's like him slamming Ty Lopez or some of these scammers. I do remember that he would also slam people of different ethnic religions. There's this gentleman who's a Sikh on YouTube, does very well for himself. He does motivational stuff. Talking about, look at this fucking turban head motherfucker. What are you talking about? He don't know nothing. And then when I'd get a chance to,
I know exactly who you're talking about. By the way, I
yes,
follow him.
sir,
He's got very
yes,
interesting
sir.
stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd say, listen, doesn't matter whether he's a Jew or this or that. And, I'd kind of want to kind of sometimes with him, the thing is you got to troll him into talking about what he's talking about. He won't open up unless you troll him into it, if that makes sense. The way some of these individuals who like to scam, they will get so fucking pissed off when you tell the truth and when you try to troll him into it and that's what was happening. I was like, all right, let me test this guy out, see what he's talking about.
Right.
So his last name is Nguyen. He'd use and he's half white, he's half Vietnamese. And reason I'm bringing up the race thing and the religion thing kind of today is he used that when it's convenient.
Well,
And
I
so
see that to be true. And why I say it is because
right,
obviously in the Philippines, you know as well as I do, unfortunately, there's extreme Muslims that
right,
OSOC and second ID, second battalion, and also second recon force were used to back up the U.S. Navy, well, U.S. Navy SEALs operations. They took away. Philippines have their Navy SEALs, which are amazing, by the way.
okay,
But they have a very last name of Spanish names. He had a very Vietnamese name to me. And I thought to myself,
right,
here's the economy again. He claimed Muslim, just like you were saying. But then I saw pictures of Buddha back up on the wall and whatnot. And when
yeah,
I saw the pictures of Buddha and he's reading from Tao and he's reading also he's saying things from Confucius, which is Chinese, which is Buddhist again. He's going
right,
back to the Muslim factor, what benefits him. And we all know in Buddhism too, Buddha being big, right? Uh,
right.
was a sign of many signs of cultures of being rich. And I felt that was the attack he had in his own mind, why he would attack David Payne, saying David's fat or David's this and David's that. I mean, David's happy as can be. And the
Yeah,
truth,
David's a jolly guy. Look at him now.
oh, dude, I'll tell you now, like, if you really look at it, like if David was Buddha, because don't get me wrong, I love him. He's bald. I'm going to rub his head when I see him. But it's a matter of if that were to take the dichotomy and he's not Buddhist, the idea is to make the world Buddhist because that's any religion's position is to make the world their religion. We wouldn't cross that ground of attacking David like that. So that's why I think it's kind of amazing you're bringing up what you're saying because it seems like he's got an interpersonal struggle. So my question would be if his dad's Vietnamese and the mom is white, which you're about to say, he did something dirty to somebody in that family.
Right, and I want to add to what you're saying. You know, I am a practicing Buddhist. I realize that, you know, in Buddhism, they have a lot of people from different faiths. It doesn't ask you to convert. Buddha wasn't a god; he was a teacher, right?
Right.
I realized is sure, you want to quote Buddha, or you want to quote something, sure, okay, fine. But then, right, the dichotomy of like preaching like a hard liner from like ISIS type, I mean like ISIS level or like Taliban level, I would say.
Right.
There's a problem there if you're talking about, people being non-believers and this and that, burning for hell, and then wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, you're talking about it's a very evangelical views that he has, and then you're gonna take that and you're gonna insult people who are. So it was more of a jealousy factor, right? So I remember he loves talking about Graham Stephen. He likes talking about that Sikh fellow, and all successful within him, by the way. And I realized, okay, this guy, there's that envy there. They're much more successful than him. I said, listen, they're making money for a lot more money than you, buddy.
Yeah.
And what problem do you have with seeing Sikhs or anybody like that? I mean, he's doing better than you. What problem do you have? Oh, they're like scammers like Ty Lopez, or they're scammers. Look at Ty Lopez, and then look at what's that guy, Andrew Tate. And I realized, you know what, I said to him, I said, you remind me of Andrew Tate. And he shut up, and he took that as a wrong way as he could. And I said, you know what, you're the Andrew Tate of credit repair, right before we terminated our conversation. And he went on this thing about oh, it was just a long, long thing. So
Well, I guess my question then too would be, the comments that were made where, if you don't mind me talking about it, he tried claiming you're a bad Muslim. He tried claiming that your parents had nowhere to go and that you moved your parents in with his parents, which I find kind of odd. All of it, but I find that
very odd, very odd.
that
Yes.
that you took money from him and that you took clients from him. But I'm understanding it's actually the other way around. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Oh, absolutely, I'll be happy to. So I've seen this thing with scammers. What they do is you can be his best friend in the world, and then you need to find dirt on him, like what he's like your political opponent all of a sudden, and you
Right.
want to paint this PR picture. First of all, why the fuck do you need to post that on your business Instagram or your business Facebook? Okay, number one, that's another red flag. If you say you're such a professional and you're so rich and you made a lot of money in credit repair and all this stuff, why don't you back it up? But the behavior shows something of like an immature man baby, okay? And you wait a minute, you want people who are wealthy and you can barely speak English. I mean, you speak English worse than somebody who, like, I mean, he's a fluent native English speaker, but and every time he's writing an email or something or text message, it's like consistently his wording's wrong, and it's like, grammar is wrong. He completely contradicts himself. Number two, I think that he doesn't know my parents. He never met them. Now, it is true that yes, I wanted him to do credit repair because at the time I didn't know David, I didn't know yourself, I didn't have anybody's trustworthy that could fix my credit, and I needed business funding. And sometimes when you are desperate and you need help, it's a shame that people like our veterans, people like myself, will fall victim to these
Oh yeah, Mike was the
individuals.
biggest one. Mike was the biggest
Yeah.
one. I see Andrew walking right in the steps.
Yep. And I remember, I also remember him saying he charges 750, and he increased his prices. He charges a lot more for what he charges according to your pocketbook. If you have a big pocketbook, he's been known to charge as upward as maybe $5,000 to $8,000 to wealthy individuals, such as, let's say a doctor, a lawyer, somebody with money. Um, but yes, that post that he made on his Facebook where he doxed me. And by the way, I've had several requests to Facebook. They've taken their sweet time to remove these posts.
Oh, of course.
They don't do a very good job with taking these things seriously. But I was never an employee with him. There was no contractual obligation legally or otherwise. It was all word of mouth. Okay, there was a
Which
oral.
is totally his benefit, of course.
Right, of course. There was an oral contract only, but oral contracts are not executable in court because there's no paper trail, there's nothing. And I'm not a
Except
lawyer,
in
and
North Carolina.
right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was neither an employee with them directly, indirectly affiliated, or in any capacity. It was just sort of like an agreement. I put $500 to give to him, which I never fucking got back. And when things really started going downhill recently, that's where he started making me seem like I'm the bad guy and started be mouthing me and belittling me and started threatening me. Now remember, Individuals like these scammers, classic scammer behavior, classic bully behavior is when you confront these individuals. Oh, right. Whether it's them taking your money or them, it's like you approaching the bully at school, like, "Hey, you took my lunch money, you asshole. I want it back." And then watch what happens. They will get on the defensive. And then I sent one gift to him after he refused to respond and went on a tirade. I sent him a gift saying "Bozo detected." It was like a radar, and it shows a bleep on the radar that says "Bozo detected," and he went ape shit crazy about that. He started saying, "Well, I know it's Ramadan, and I should donate to the poor, don't you think?" Now, I'm one of those individuals. I'll let him speak and make a fucking fool of himself, because it
Which
works
is
to my
not very
advantage.
nice.
I'm not gonna go out and curse him and do this thing. This is just how my character is. I think maybe it's from brushes off from, you know, um, being with our military vets and stuff. But sometimes, when you want to get contact, you don't just go in guns blazing. You wait for the adversary to show a position. Let's say there's a sniper on the other side. You wait for the glint on the scope. You wait for sound. You wait for something for you
Oh
to
yeah,
know that they're on the other side.
You have miles of angle, you have windage, you have everything. Trust me, I know that.
Exactly, exactly. You
Those
have
type of
miles, you
things.
have minutes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, for our non, I guess, DoD affiliated not civilian friends out there, who are not maybe familiar, I make that um comparison to say that, you know, or whether it be boxing, right? You wait sometimes for your opponent to throw the punch to kind of read their body language. That's what I did. So when he started going on his really long tirade, and then he starts making these threats. He starts saying, "If you don't post 30 minutes, I'm not fucking afraid of you. I'm more fucking afraid of what's going to happen to me if I don't pay my taxes or if I screw up a government contract. I'm more afraid of that.
yeah,
I'm not afraid of some individual in living in Vietnam saying he's got a penthouse in New York and he can go fuck himself.
right.
So he made these threats, and it made my blood boil. And it was ridiculous. And then when I saw that he posted on Facebook, I was like, this is hilarious. This individual is a lot more stupid than I thought, which is great. And I don't underestimate adversaries, especially these scammers. It can be very crafty. So he did what he. I also have to mention that there was another individual, and unfortunately, prior to our conversation today, uh, around the time where he was sending me these threats, I lost my WhatsApp data, and my WhatsApp crashed. I had a hard time getting back my images and everything. But he did the exact same thing that he did to me to another individual who did it, I guess, didn't pay up or something like that. He said, "Hey, wouldn't this be funny? Could you help this guy find his social security?" And he posted on his Facebook about this individual, same thing, social security. He said, "Hey, please help this gentleman by the name of blah blah blah. I think he's lost his personal information. Ha 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 ha." And he's got, like, 10 people, clients maybe of his or friends, liking the post.
Well,
And
it's
he
like, yeah,
doxed another individual.
he has such a small group, and it's funny. I tend to ask the question: do you believe the subscribers he has are real or are they fake? What's your opinion on this? Do you know? Do you not know?
I think they're a combination. The ratio of fake subscribers and people to real, probably a ratio, a good mixed ratio. I think most of them. There's a lot of these fake subscribers, and then there's also sometimes you'll see some good subscribers. But in this day and age with AI and everything, it can be
Oh
hard to
yeah,
tell because you have some random person with an African name, and I want to give him benefit of the doubt and say maybe they're a client of his, but say keep up the good work, right? And then when you
right.
go to their YouTube profile, there's nothing there, so it's
Yeah, I see a lot of
questionable,
that with him with people that are on there. I mean,
right?
I also wonder too. The question is, in your mindset from talking, does he seem to be any kind of way computer savvy as his claim to being a hacker?
Could it be further from the truth?
Okay,
Um,
awesome.
matter of fact, yeah, matter of fact, he would always try to go out of his way, and he would always try to ask me, "Hey, you have some cousins of yours who are hackers or something that can help me?" I'd say, first of all, yes, but my community of hackers are white hat. So if you couldn't recover your password or you lost all your data, that's white hat hacking. I don't think you understand, buddy, that all hackers are bad. So he's trying to find malicious intent trying to hack competitors' websites or people he doesn't like. And I found that was kind of interesting. So he thought that white hat hackers, because I'm in the space where I'm trying to learn new skills. I'm trying to get into cybersecurity, kind of
Right.
my skills a little bit more and take that to the contracting side of it as well. So I think he misunderstood that as like, I'm sitting behind a computer hacking people all day and maliciously and stealing money and he maybe thought, oh, there's a money opportunity there. Uh, so
Well,
no,
yeah,
definitely could,
the
you know,
quality of the videos is not that great for someone who's such a successful CEO.
right. It's
Um,
from a phone. It's from a
oh,
phone.
absolutely. All of it's from his phone. I mean, listen, for effort, A plus, right? For how far he
Right,
goes on things, but quality content and information, D minus, right? That kind of wavers it out. Um,
right.
I asked that question because I don't know if you'd heard, David Payne over at Everything Created, he released a video or actually recording of a video, or video recording, sorry, in regards to the conversation I had with Andrew. And I'll be honest with you, like everything I heard from Andrew was there. And David's such a great guy and an honest guy. He'll take it word for mouth what it is. But the guard, trust me, the guard was still up. David was fully aware the guard was still up. Like you don't trust it because it seems like everything he was saying was like manipulation tactics.
Right.
And,
I'd
and
like to add to that too when you're done.
the seeker too.
Yeah.
The last thing is, I told you before how he is to us. He's like the House and the Senate tells him right and wrong. He's also like the Jedi. I mean, I jokingly say that, but it's true. Like, I mean, I know he had a conversation with Andrew. He did not elaborate on that conversation with anyone, so I make that very clear. But what he said was, I think it's okay for now. Like, even he had a hesitancy of this guy may not be trustworthy because even he could pick up certain things he was saying in his conversation with him. I cut you off on the last part. Sorry.
Oh, no, no problem, no problem. I apologize for cutting you off, sir. What I was trying to say is, no, I absolutely agree with you. The thing is, uh, right, so he is, boy, I mean, sometimes I don't know where to begin. I mean, you get this somebody who I guess has this, it's kind of like a Napoleon complex, right? What I mean by that is,
Not related to his height at all, but go on.
right. I guess the best way I'm trying to explain this is, you got a short little dude with a temper, right? He wants to
Right.
rule the world. You try to double cross him, and he wants to try to destroy you. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And he'll go against everybody and everything, and try to go against you in every way he can. It's not like he's got a big audience anyway. Okay, and from the people that he's wrong, sometimes I would feel so bad. I would reach out to them and say, "Hey, listen, I apologize." It's, oh, but you're a CEO. I would say, I'm sorry, I'm not the CEO. Here's what's going on, but I want to help you. And again, at that time, I didn't know you guys, so I couldn't refer out to anybody that I knew. I would have to do a lot of damage control.
Right.
Um, and he's had a lot of people who would get back my email saying, "Oh, you're a fucking scammer. Why it's been 4 to 6 months. You have not given me any sort of update. What the fuck is going on right now? I need to know."
That's what Mike was.
And
I guess my question is:
right,
do you think about like he talks about millionaires coming to him and judges, and he even said military for security clearance. I'm like, I didn't want to get into that because I knew that he was full of shit. When he said it. But
right.
let me ask this: did you ever, in your encounters, try to do damage control and try to make the peace? Have you talked to anyone of caliber that was more than six figures trying to work on their credit? That doesn't
From
make
what
sense.
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, and if I got one of those types of people, from what I understand, he's had a lot of unhappy high figure clients, but he would only give priority to people with deep pockets. If he saw that you have deep pockets, he would treat you like you are royalty. And he knew that he could upsell them because here's the thing, here's a plan he discussed. He said, "Oh, how do you become rich? Oh, you get the other people's money." And he literally other people's money. I think that's maybe what he meant.
Yeah,
Um, and so I think we went down to one of his, again, his tirades where he said that, how do you become rich? Real estate, this, that. He tries to get into this whole real estate thing. So he thinks if you get these people and you fix their credit, you can be getting commission for putting deals together when they're getting their new homes, they're getting their investment properties. And so that's why he had
that's
very,
the angle I was
right.
wondering.
That's why he had very few like clients who were wealthy clients who were like not satisfied with what he were doing. Okay, but it was at the expense of these people where if you had bad credit and if you were, let's say, an African American, especially if you're an African American, I remember his tirades of going on these disgusting rants using the N word so many times and say, I remember this old lady that I had to deal with. I sold her I would get my own commission for selling my identity theft protection. And I remember at least we had this agreement in place where I would sell my identity theft protection, and I was able to advise on that. But then every time credit came up, it was like a sore subject because I would say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I have to get back to you. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going through this. I have to get back to you." And then at this point, it became so unbearable, the guilt. And so he would have a lot of these people who are struggling financially, and I realized, oh man, okay, if they can't pay 9.95 a month, the price of lunch a month for my identity theft protection, how are they going to pay for the credit repair?
Well, let me
And then
ask.
it starts,
Let me
uh-huh,
interject on that. So what you're trying to explain. So every listening right understands this. He'd get him in on the, let's say, the 750 entry and like maybe whatever the maintenance fee is per month. You're selling them the credit protection at 950 a month, which is this price of basically a Netflix cheap account, right?
right.
And when they can't pay the next month, he drops them like a hot rock. So my question would be, if he wasn't getting results, was he actually doing the credit repair, or was that outsourced to Malaysia or Indonesia?
I want to say he at the time he was outsourcing a lot of his work. I do know that. I can't say when it began and when it stopped, but I know he was also doing the outsourcing work for many companies and bad mouthing them and doing the same thing. And he was also taking my amazing clients and when they needed credit repair, he was trying to work on their credit and then all of a sudden I've lost a credit. And he's either gained money or it was like it was a horrible forest fire. And the thing is, what also struck me is that either there would be clients of his that he would send to me to protect their identity, get their basically their credit report to start the process. But my amount of chargebacks, and I had my contract terminated at one point with the company for a high amount. It was like 55% chargeback rate, and I had to explain what was going on, and I had
Oh,
to re
wow.
I had to send a letter saying there was a company writing bad business on my behalf, a bad actor, and it was not uh, my intention, and it was not me writing this business, and we have terminated our relationship. Whole thing, and it got back up to the senior vice president of client relationship management. I say, look, sir, this is not me. I don't write bad business. Prior to meeting this company that I'm doing business with, here's my retention rate. It's 92%. Okay. And so that's what was going on is he's trying to double dip here. Okay. And when he
Right.
found that, especially when they were African Americans and had low credit, and when you would go on this tirade about people of color with poor credit and the disgusting things he would say, that was another thing that made me want to vomit and said, all right, I'm going to terminate my relationship with this individual, but let me see where this goes because maybe one day, and here we are. Again, you let your adversary throw the punches, and sometimes you want to react, see, is this individual for real, or do I have something here to perhaps, you know, share with the public later, share with somebody later, and here's how I got to where I am now. So I just kind of that's the only reason I kept in contact was, you know,
Well,
to get him.
I gotta say, Camille, have you watched the videos where he accuses David Payne of being a racist?
I have, yes, and it's a very common thing that he's done with anybody he doesn't like. He'll say pedophile, he'll say racist, or he'll say Taliban, or he'll say this and that, and
It's the
very
kid
common.
who walks through like a chain link fence, basically.
Right, right, exactly. Right.
I'm surprised by it because again, this attack on David was pretty extreme. I mean, David, you know, it's like
Yes.
no one can conduct anyone that can conduct a business as a pedophile than David's Houdini. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think the reality too, as if it's the personal attack on him and the wife factor is like, again, I made a video I haven't released yet, but one of the complex of that is going back to him, mother and father situation. David consults with his wife because by faith that's what he's going to do, and it makes a better team effort as one. It's not him being a pussy whipped or being lame or his wife's not happy. His wife loves him to death. I've talked to his wife. Um, I guess the question would be going back to Andrew's parents, unless you said he's half white, half Vietnamese. You've never really met his family, correct?
I have never met his family, from what I understand,
Because
what
he
he
bought this
claimed.
company at $200,000. I'm gonna get back to you. I want
That's
you to ask that, but I'm
okay.
curious if he came from the family too. Is what I'm trying to find out from you. And what do you know about his family that he's told you?
Right. So all I know is, from what I understand, I from my understanding is it seems like the parents were divorced. His dad's Vietnamese. His dad lives in a trailer park in one of the Carolinas. I remember this because he went to stay with his dad one time and they had a disagreement. I remember I was on the phone with him. He's talking to me about credit repair or something related to credit repair. And here's this guy, shouting a very thick Vietnamese American accent. And I said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" He said, "Oh, it's my goddamn Vietnamese." And excuse my language, this is him quoting himself. Fucking gook dad. I said, "Hold on." I said, "That's
Wow.
a strong word to use. That's your dad." He said, "Look at him. He lives in a fucking trailer trash. And you know what he had to do? My mom, my brother, he's a Marine and this and that." And so all I know is he claims he has a brother who's a Marines.
Okay.
I know that from my conversation, he has a
Thanks
dad
for that
who's
piece, by
Vietnamese
the way.
American.
Thanks for that
Yeah,
piece. I'm gonna find out because I have my
no problem.
security clearance still. I'm gonna find out, but
Yeah, no problem. I don't remember whether it's South or North Carolina. You'll have to forgive me with that. And from it seems
South
like he
Carolina.
grew up.
So yeah, I forgive you.
Right. So, from my understanding, he grew up in the Bay Area. It seems like, there was a broken household here, and a lot of these individuals who have this type of behavior normally come from broken households. Okay, nothing against them, right? But
No,
it
I,
it
I
cultivates
understand.
a certain
It
behavior,
just makes
right?
sense. You're absolutely
Um,
right.
it can cultivate predatory behavior, and so that's as far as I know about his family. I remember I think he has a sister. I'm not too sure, but I remember him saying that his sister was using drugs, or somebody in his family, maybe mother, or somebody was using drugs, or somebody who's doing financially poor. And he was like, "All right, I'm going to be the savior of my family." So credit repair basically is salvation of redeeming his identity and his like redeeming himself and his family as somebody with respect. So from what I understand, he wanted to be successful and show he's making money so he can win respect in his family and pay for his sister or whoever and kind of be that so-called savior
What's the strange part
because
is we just saw a picture of
right,
his sister and his mom, and there's some people in our group that did some research on this too. The plaintiffs and his sister and his dad sitting on a golf stream, and it didn't make sense to me why he was showing it because he wasn't even there with them. But then he did a
doesn't make
FaceTime video
sense.
with them. Yeah, he did a FaceTime video with them. Apparently, if it wasn't like with an AI, I don't know because he claims this is his sister and his dad. But when she said, "Yeah, it's dad," there was like no reaction. Like I didn't see his dad go, "Oh, hey, Andrew." Really? No, he was just like staring like a dead look on his face. So I was kind of wondering where my theory may have been where we're researching this, diving into more was how did he get this money? Because there's a rumor out there where he took money from his mother too, and we're trying to figure
Right.
this out. And I got that sourcing from New York. I'll get into that in a minute. There's someone in New York that he has a big enemy with, so I'm trying to find out what the truth to that story is, how he got where he's at overseas right now and set up. You know?
Yeah, no, back to what you're saying. Again, sorry if I cut you off.
Yeah, no, no, go
But every time you bring up a good point, and then you remind me that I have to make another point to add to what you're
ahead.
saying
No,
because I
perfectly
think of
fine.
something new.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, firstly, I want to also go back to the fact that yeah, David seems like a wholesome, genuine character. When I saw the attacks, I said, "This guy." When I saw the video of David defending himself, talking about credit, I said, "Wait a minute, this guy's not some." You know, Hell's Angels looking guy who's like, or like, somebody with questionable moral character. He looks like an okay guy living somewhere in Georgia,
he's not an
and
Amish man with a funny beard in a trailer park, obviously.
yeah. So that struck me as funny. I was like, but at the same time, I was like, who gives a fuck if he's in a trailer park or not? This guy is
Right.
probably, providing for his family. He must have done something. And I said, that's why I should reach out to David and collaborate because I strongly believe in justice being served, and
Absolutely.
I said, just David he doesn't look like the type of guy who's manipulative and would certain people have that face. David does not have one of the faces of a villain or that type of person who looks questionable, and then going back to what you were saying, um, yeah, he has a dysfunctional relationship, Andrew, Andre, whatever you want to call him, does with his family, and the thing is with these types of individuals is they will pry information from you to use it as leverage and ammo against you. But then when you ask them about their personal relationship or what they're doing, they will stonewall you and they will go or down dance around they will dance around when you ask these questions. So when I was asking these normal questions, as anybody would ask, for example, getting my money back and what are you doing with my money, I remember he was insulting me as well and saying like, I'm a fucking charity case, and shouldn't I should be ashamed of myself, and $500 is nothing to me, bro. $500, you know what that can get me? Your money doesn't mean shit to me, bro. Nobody's money means shit to me. You're living at home, you're using your parents' money, you're doing this, and then that's where his tirade started. How's the coins business? Oh, how's your mom and dad doing? Hey, by the way, I'm going to say you're a scammer if you don't reply to me in 30 minutes. I'm going to
Wow.
be putting your data up. Unless, are you pussy? Are you too man to talk? He's calling me, at that point, the harassment started. And then, I was laughing to myself because he's basically admitting to multiple crimes right there
Oh
through
yeah.
text. And so, I wasn't the first person he's done this to. He does this quite frequently to people who he feels crossed him. And that's kind of where it's at. I mean, he made his money, I think, with he claims when I talked to him first time around with American Credit Repair, whatever it was called. It was on Yelp, by the way. His
Oh
company's
no,
still
he
there.
did. He
Yelp.
made the money with
Yeah,
the company, but he took the
yeah.
money and ran. Is the reality.
That
It,
that would make sense
it
because his
was.
ex-partner hates him. Right. His ex-partner hates him. I don't know why. He paints him as a criminal. He paints him as a person who took the money and ran. And he says, "Oh, the company fell apart, and I was driving a Mercedes AMG at one point. I was doing really well for myself. He used the photos. I said, all right, he was doing well with himself. He's trying to reinvent himself, but he tries to portray it as, woe unto me. Oh, in like psychology, they would say Jesus Christ complex, meaning you're trying to make the world feel sorry for you. Here you are trying to you're making it seem like you're being crucified, and you want the world to like, oh, poor him, oh, poor guy, we feel sorry for him. And that's what he's trying to paint, you know.
Yeah, and I don't want to joke about ADHD or nothing, but like
Right.
again, his claim to knowledge that he claims he has more than everybody else. Of course, sometimes that's just the way he puts it out there. I'm being honest. It's all over the map. It's religion. It's investment. It's money. It's reading books. It's aquascape. Maybe aquascaping is the only thing he can do. I don't even know if he even does. I assume he does. But he has this idea that he's trying to one up the whole world. And it's kind of sad sometimes to watch because you think to yourself, why am I wasting a breath making a rebuttal video? Or why am I wasting my breath? It's not to me because I'm in the fight and because David is my friend. I'm not afraid to admit it. And of course, being part of this division now of a credit core, we're not divided from the credit core. I mean, like I said, we're just basically another branch of it, basically to go after scammers and things that we do. My firm has 180 cases I've said before we're working on. Andrew stands out the most out of all of them because of the tirades, the anger, the threats, the violation of domestic law, because obviously hiding in Vietnam, right? He knows we can't get to him. I don't expect that he's going to come back stateside at all, or has he before? Because he does have enemies almost in every state he's been to.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, do you know anything about him growing up in Florida at all by any chance, or was it just strictly the West Coast that you knew? Because that's all I have from
Yeah,
him too.
yeah, yeah. So he's never grown up in Florida. He's a West Coast boy,
Yep, that's what I
and I've
thought.
I've never been to California other than transiting through the airport. In Los Angeles and San Francisco, through the air, other than the airports, I've never been there. Here's an individual who, again, he thinks we're all fucking stupid. And
Correct.
I was showing David all the evidence that points to the fact that he is not in the United States. I want to mention something very important to you. He, at one point, like I was telling you, how I feel used like a drug mule. Why I said that is because he would use my name and my credentials and my PayPal and my everything to process payments at one point in time. Okay. Number two, he was also using that to register. There's a software called Craigslist Ad Blaster, and he would use my account and my credentials, and even had me open up a Fifth Third checking account. Um, for funds that were being dispersed from this. Essentially, I also open up an LLC for Pinnacle, and I still get a lot of these debt collection letters and all these
Oh,
Florida
wow.
letters on behalf of his company. So he also had done these activities where he's registering these false email mail center addresses. All his email addresses. I mean, not email. All the all the physical email I keep saying email, I apologize. All the physical addresses on his website, the New York, Fifth Avenue, and San Francisco and all this, they are PO boxes in these little office building places, those like a little USPS box that you get, at those mail centers.
Right.
Where you pay for to have a professional address, and
Oh, of
they
course.
handle your
Yeah.
mail for you. That's what it is. So everything basically is behind this facade. So he had used my goodwill and my company information, my financial information to basically further his agenda. And again, there's talks about compensation and everything, but whenever I would talk about my pay, whenever I would walk into a real estate office saying, "Hey, listen, we can credit repair, I'd love to work with your clients, this and that." Whenever I would have clients, he would take a few of those clients and he would basically, they wouldn't come back. They would take my calls, and I'm like, I'm working for free here. What the hell is going on? Where's my pay? And that's again where you'd start getting defensive. I'd say, I don't work for free. I sure as fuck ain't working for free for you. Yeah, you better have that understanding. And he sort of have this, you go on one of his crazy tirades about something and talk about Ty Lopez or talk about something from another religion. So that's where it gets even um, more
So
ridiculous.
loosely as a CEO, it sounds like to me the way he ran Pinnacle was basically a team member of one plus, like you and somebody else. Maybe it sounds like.
Right. Well, it's the pinnacle of incompetence, I can tell you that. I mean, right. I mean, probably
So
why it's named
you're
Pinnacle.
talking about the state of delusion, but go on.
Right, right. And because the thing is, when he'd get somebody dissatisfied, I would have to be the one to step up and do damage control. And at this point, I'm thinking, why am I even helping him? But I remembered there will be a point in time where he will slip up or get horrible clients, where there will be a time where this type of dark individual, there'll be people who may want to pursue legal charges against him, or people who he's scammed and thinks he can get, these types of people, they think they can get away with it. Also going back to what I was saying is what I shared with David is, if you look at his YouTube channel and you look at his intro channel, that he makes it look like it's like some kind of cool TV program. He grabs Andrew, whatever, grabs his keys on his desk, gets on his motorbike. You pause the frame there, and if you look at the license plate and run that, that's Vietnam.
Oh yeah,
And so that
yeah,
reinforces the
we know
fact that
that.
he is in Vietnam, right? So he's saying, "Oh, I'm in New York City. My beautiful penthouse is as it reminds me of Ty Lopez saying, here in my garage, knowledge got me this Lamborghini." And here I'm thinking like, yeah, it's probably a rented Lamborghini, and a rented, it's what does a penthouse like that cost in Vietnam? It costs $800 a month, okay?
Oh, same thing too.
Honestly,
Like about the
right?
call he took, which we think is with AI in regards to the shark. Like I don't even know how legit that is.
Right, right. Oh yes, I can speak to that. Now, I remember I had a voicemail, and I think I have to recover that. Not a voicemail, a voice message from him, and it was a sickening tirade, like him going on this. It was when he normally speaks, he kind of speaks in a monotonous, low tone. He was speaking in an extremely evangelical tone of voice, and like very like, if you don't believe me, you're gonna fucking die type of tone. And
Right.
like it was like, oh, here I am going on the fucking phone with I forgot whatever individual his name is, and who fuck you. And you see the haters, they want to say this stuff about me, but here I am, I'm about to be on this call. There's no trace that this call ever happened. There's only an email screenshot that I saw
Right.
about the executive assistant to to the gentleman, Kevin Harrington, that's his name, saying that they wanted to hop on a call, and he brags about this in one of his videos. But then he's not willing to either share the call on his YouTube, and like, okay, it's Kevin Harrington. Well, if you're really transparent and open, I'm sure you're going to share that call. That's great PR for you, whether it's on your, whatever channels,
Oh,
social media,
that's like hitting
right?
a lottery. Obviously, hitting a lottery for him. That's why I'm surprised. Like every call well, I should say every call, two calls. Brent Harrington, it's a one-sided call and it's cut off. And the same thing too with this other person that, forgive me, it doesn't speak very strong English about the program, but it was all one-sided. It wasn't. You have no
Right.
idea he's feeding him the information. It's not like an open dialogue like we're having right now. The clarity, it was just always one-sided or showing what he wants to show. And I realize that he still messes up when he does this because he's always showing something on his computer screen that we find, or he's claiming something he didn't do. We find out he did do. It's unbelievable to me. So I would have to say, like, at best, you got a 50-50 chance if you use him for credit repair because you got bots and something else doing it. And if you don't get the results you want, it's kind of like F off. I'm not giving you back your money. What are you going to do? Come here and take it from me in Vietnam? That's the mentality I think he's
That's
doing.
exactly the mentality. Absolutely correct. And that's how he would approach his victims, Even with the cybercrime, it gets a little bit difficult. He docks me. How do I report him to what state agency, and how do I pursue legal action against him? He lives in Vietnam, which doesn't, even if you're doing something illegal, doesn't extradite,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't.
They don't extradite. I think Thailand maybe extradites now, but my point is that he's in a essentially communist country. He can be hiding in a hut somewhere in the countryside. We don't know. But the point is that you cannot pursue legal action, right? Unless, he's a war criminal, okay? Right? So, as you and I know, it's difficult to pursue that action. I do know that he has the intention to come stateside. And I remember just recently with one of his business numbers, he messaged me on on WhatsApp, and he sent me his live location, and it was his live location literally was pointing to the middle of the Potomac River in Washington D.C.
Oh,
Like, what is he on a river cruise or something? It doesn't make any sense. He probably used a VPN or something. I
right.
laughed it off and I blocked him. We still know that he's in Vietnam, and he wants to also pursue and show this thing like he's like is really is like an Andrew Tate. If you make the comparison between Andrew Tate and him, he is the Andrew Tate of credit repair. And I don't mean to say that in the sense where I'm belittling credit repair. I mean that he is a bad apple who gives credit repair a bad name because
Yeah.
unfortunately there's a lot of scammers out there who have given credit repair a bad name. There's people like David who are amazing individuals, people like yourself as well who are working hard to change that perception. But then you have people like this guy. That's why I say he's like Andrew Tate. The comparisons are almost too identical. Uh, this guy will go on his YouTube and talk about boxing. Okay, he'll talk about, oh, I'm fasting from Ramadan for 20 hours and I'm boxing. And then he'll
Right.
talk about partying it up in Vietnam. And then one of his things he would always tell me is how he's very young and he wants to sleep with as many women as he can. And I'm a fucking pussy for having a wife and settling down because that's not how Genghis Khan and the Mongols did it, and they did it by having many wives, and there's a reason why
No, the
the Arabs
Mongols
have
did
many
it by raping
wives.
their way through the
You,
country. Is what the
right,
Mongols.
right. So he said, it's about spreading your seed as much as you can and being a real man. And I'm going to settle down. And a real man makes money. He's not a pussy. He don't be pussy whipped by any lady, any woman. And if you do, there's something wrong with you. And that's probably why, you're deranged and settling down somewhere in Asia, whether it's Singapore, Vietnam. He's like all these things he's saying. And, here I am huffing and puffing. I realize, wait a minute. Okay, right, he's like Andrew Tate. He's showing off this lifestyle, and
Right.
on the other side, he's showing this other persona he's trying to show on YouTube. He has maybe 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he barely has any presence online. This is a fucking CEO of company, and he doesn't even have a functioning fucking LinkedIn. There's no LinkedIn to be found for this man. There's no like if you're a professional, you'll be on LinkedIn, you'll be talking about things, you'll be, you'll be connecting with people from banks and things like that. You'll be a true professional.
I'm all. I'm
There's
all.
no
I'm all. I'm all. Careful, Camille. The next thing you know, he's gonna have a LinkedIn by tomorrow. So
right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I do know he tried to make a LinkedIn and it said Pinnacle for his thing, But the thing is, you have to be consistent to be in this space if you're working with SVPs of banks and all this stuff. But on his YouTube, he kind of likes to show like, oh, look at me,
you know what?
I'm living in New York in this penthouse and I'm a badass. I make a
Yeah.
lot of money. And if you're not giving me your money, you're a fucking idiot. That's kind of the persona people are getting.
I
you
just
know.
got I just got a hit from the producer right now. This he came back. He made it clear that he does have a LinkedIn. However, I think it goes straight to
Okay.
the technical part of it. So it's probably the same copies that he had on Instagram or whatever at the time. So he does have a LinkedIn. But then again, let's be honest. I mean, LinkedIn can be just the same as a facade as any social media. You can say what you want, make what you want, do what you want. There's no way to verify the credentials on there.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of going back and forth. But to your point, yes, a CEO does not act like this self-proclaimed CEO. But it's funny; he's mentioned comments about a CEO being part of the company. So he tries to cover his tracks by things he says, but the legality is already there. They're already violated. I mean, I could only hope he's dumb enough to come to Florida. Trust me,
Right.
they're out there now. You have Blitz is waiting on standby for Blitz and Scheinberg to serve him. And I'm not afraid to say that
Absolutely.
actually in this interview. You have people also too in Texas and California waiting to serve him. And then what happens, I don't think you realize, is that once you have enough of those services with civil matter, they can become criminal matter. And a lot of these people look
Absolutely.
in Canada's scamming world right now. So it's like, well, you're promising a service, you're not delivering on it. What about the consumer right laws? Just the same as the Federal Trade Commission laws, just the same as the credit bureau laws. There's laws in the position they're in the favor of the investor, the client. They're not in favor of the owner. So that's why I say, yes, David is very clear. When you look over everything credit, David is very clear about what he does, how he does it, by the book, by the standard. And then it's funny that all the accusations that went against him in this short time of less than 6 months we're going on now came as what Andrew does himself of violating the law. So that's why I say the hypocrisy is there. Someone who's manipulative and at worst a psychopath, at least just a manipulative, condescending liar. You know, I'm hoping
Right.
that at some point I can try to get Andrew on here for an interview, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
Right. Absolutely. I'm also trying to think if there's anything that I didn't mention before, but I think we talked about basically my relationship from the beginning to now. So there's an individual who I thought at the time was trustworthy, but then the red flags started building up. So
And I'm very sorry this happened to you because that to hear that, I mean, I'm like some of the things I knew you were going to bring up. Some things I did not. I did not know that this individual had you open up bank accounts, use your name for applications and other items. It makes me really wonder, like, international man as he claims, or international criminal. This is very disheartening.
absolutely, and I can prove it. It's not like I'm just talking shit. Even if he made a reply video saying, "Oh, this goddamn person can't prove it," yeah, you just go to you just go to sunbiz.org, Florida State Department of State, and you can look up by the records according to entity name or the individual's name, and you can look up in the past an entity that was. Florida is very transparent with that. They don't keep these things private like Delaware, Wyoming, and Las Vegas.
Right.
So you can actually see, what company under whose name was. So you'll see my name there. You'll see my own LLCs, my own business, but you'll also see one where may say Pinnacle Credit Management, and it has my name as like the manager, if you will, or
Wow.
the agent, if you will. And yes, it was absolutely here I am thinking, and here he is painting the delusion that if you do what I say, you'll be making so much money and everything will work out, things will be great. And when you're at that time when you're desperate, when you're kind of down on your luck, which I was, okay.
Exactly.
And you unfortunately tend to believe those things and that is why, I can continue to doing these things because I said, well, if he wins, then I win too. I was an idiot to fall short for that predatory behavior, but we are where we are now, and I stuck to the course, and I realized, okay, that, let me see, maybe I have some recourse, or I'm glad I'm able to provide information, and I'm glad things happened to the way that I was able to meet David. If he did not insult David, I would not be able to meet David and provide my story, testimony, what have you, to him and yourself. Uh, and I just realized both of you are David, so I
Yeah.
guess.
It gave me
But
time.
I mean, Mr. David Payne here that I met before yourself. But essentially, it's yes, it's just a trail of bad behavior, manipulating people and trying to get them to do things on your behalf. Because I didn't understand that in the credit repair industry, I didn't know you can't just use Stripe or PayPal or anything like that because it's considered high risk.
Right.
So, so I really didn't know that. I was wondering like, why is he using my PayPal? Why do I have payments coming in for $800, $1,000, 2,2,500? Is that my customer or is his? And then the chargeback started to happen. I said, nope, I'm cutting him off. I'm changing my password. I'm doing everything. I give him access to my PayPal at one point to send these invoices. And actually, no, I had control of my account. He would just he would have me send, I think it was kind of mixed. He would have me send the invoices at one point. I think maybe he had like an employee credential to send invoices on my PayPal. And when I realized that, now I understood why it could be considered high risk to normal, like PayPal, whatever. It's easy to charge back, and you have
Right.
people like this guy scamming, and then all you have to do is call your credit card company and charge it back. So when the chargeback started happening, I said, I've had enough of this. Now, why, for the sake of me, I decided to, over time, keep in touch with this individual is to see if I could probe him to see what's happening with his business, where he is. Because when he
Or
made
where
the
your
move
money's at too, you know?
and where my money's at, exactly. And mostly to do with where my money's at. I gave him benefit of the doubt. He made it seem like, when he was in New York City, just as he made the move to Vietnam in circa 2019, 2020, um, he made it seem that, he was doing a little bit better for himself. His expenses are low because he's living in a third world country. And, that obviously was not the case. And he's showing off to me about how he has a Harley Davidson I don't know if for our viewers or for yourself, I don't know if you know Harley Davidson, obviously is not a cheap motorcycle.
No.
In a place like Asia and Vietnam, it's even more expensive. And the type of Harley he has, I think it's a Buell or something like that. And this particular bike is not cheap. So it could be that, he's putting a lot of money into his image, and he can do so if he's living in a country like Vietnam where the cost of living is a lot lower. So he's able to show,
Well,
I'm living in
you
New
could
York
also
City, right?
take $750, $1,500 and just not getting the work done either. Yeah, that's just it.
Right,
He's
right,
not. To me, I feel like he rolls the dice just like the rest of us did when we needed credit repair. We rolled the dice, and this guy Mikey came along with his story. But it's like when they tell you put more in, you can move faster, do this, do that. When you're desperate, like you were saying too, these people are desperate. They will do it. It's like gambling, right? They're looking for the win, and unfortunately, there's no one there to educate them on this, like David does over everything credit, like the Seeker does, Credit Crusader, people like that who do understand the credit, how you do things, build credit, business credit, and those kind of things, who are giving information for free, but have services too that are legit. Where this person's just like, I'm the best, pay me, give me the money, or else if you don't give me the money, you're gonna suck. Basically, you're not gonna have the life that I have. You're not gonna have the things that I have. And this person's fat, and this person's stupid, and this person has no life. It's like, it's. I don't know how anybody honestly looking at his platform, even his business platform, would want to give him a dime. So I'm shocked by it.
right. I'm happy I'm able to tell my story and share it with y'all.
Yeah.
It's just yeah, what's happened with me has happened, but I realized that it's interesting that these individuals use very bullying behavior to intimidate and threaten people, but they don't realize, even though he has made, you know, a, these ridiculous threats and they go completely against the law. And I don't think he even realized but I think that he thinks he's safe behind a glass wall, if you will. As soon as he has to come stateside, which he will,
He's toast. But I mean, I
that's
can
it,
only hope that you filed paperwork to yourself.
Well, that's the thing. I think we'll talk about that after this interview's done. I was talking to David about this too. I had filed something, but every
Yeah, we'll keep that
jurisdiction
on the
from
down low. Definitely.
absolutely. We'll talk more about that so you can advise. But essentially, um, all I could say on that without giving too much away, especially if he's watching this video, is that when an individual is overseas, it's a different type of process. It could still be done, but that's all I'm going to comment on
Oh
saying
yeah,
this. And I'm sure you can.
it's a very long, lengthy conduit, but it can be done.
Right, right,
I can't imagine if he has a brother that's a Marine would even want anything to do with him after everything he's seen and done, because that's just an embarrassment. Because we pride ourselves on the people we keep in our company, you know.
right.
So,
And
but
what another thing that bothers me too, I don't know if I had mentioned this before, with the veteran thing he's trying to capitalize on, he seems to think like you're not Lockheed Martin, buddy. You ain't, you ain't inventing you know, a multi-billion dollar business overnight. You think you can just take our veterans and just milk them for money because you see them in uniform all of a sudden, oh, look at me, I got this veteran, he's a Marine Corps veteran, he's a captain, and this is a guy who knows jack shit about the military. I have to add one thing. He will confuse Marine Corps ranks with the Army. So, oh, this guy's a Lance Corporal in the Army, and he's actually his rank is a Lieutenant General, and basically, sometimes it's we know the ranking system varies, but can be similar from branch to branch. You
right,
can't confuse. There's no. I mean, it's night and day between the Marine Corps and the Navy, right? But then when you start confusing the Navy with the Army, because a captain in the Navy is completely different than a captain in either the Army or the Navy, right?
right.
Like as soon as you start confusing ranks basically and like services, like that is one of the most stupidest things you can do, and then you're bragging about it on top of it. Now, you may sometimes be forgiven for it, because they'll be, oh, he's a civilian, he doesn't know. But when you're openly bragging about how many veterans you work with, like myself, I mean, I've always had an interest in the military and all these things, and I make sure to the T. If I make a mistake, I hold myself accountable, and I do apologize to the individual if I'm talking to them, but I make sure never to do that. And this is a guy just going around and confusing the Army with the Navy and just kind of like making it seem like it's all one branch.
Well, he had what I think is a GS contractor out of Germany on the phone one day. He was doing a kind of a call to a client. And to be honest with you, I took what I could out of it. I let my buddy know down at an S1 shop at MI, and he has facial recognition still on base. I won't mention his name because obviously he ran through something he shouldn't have. But it came through the CAC system. Use our CAC cards. She's not even a
Right.
CAC card holder. So my question would be: is she even military? And I felt like how disingenuous for you to say to claim this is a military member that is not even showing up in the system on a CAC card, which you all have
But
to
the thing
have to
is,
walk on base.
right, right. But the thing is, even if it's a military contractor and he ran it through the S1, and your buddy is MI, and he has access to information to verify these things, right?
Right.
He has a way of verifying this. Even if he or she wasn't a member of the military, they would still be able to show that this is a certified military contractor and they're in the system.
Yeah,
But
and
that wasn't the case.
he can't get any identification off whatsoever, and that's why I
Right.
thought to myself, this guy will lie about what the weather is outside, where he's at, where he lives, what he's doing. Fuck, for all I know, he's a woman at this point. I don't know. I think it's crazy how far this person has gone to discredit Dave everything credit, have conversations with David, have conversations with a very pretty senior person in our group, and assure things were copacetic and kumbaya and lie about his childhood and lie about his past, of course he would, and not be truthful about it, and then continue to keep the rant and the rage and the tirade going. Honestly, I feel like we've made him more popular than he was before in a very unpopular way, which I'm okay with. Um, but I think, again, for the folks that are out there, again, Kamil, Faizi, amazing. Thank you for having the bravery to talk to us. A lot of people won't. I have another interview I'm going to be doing again pretty soon with someone out of New York that I think literally the best way to put it, they're not on the right side of the law, and they have a big bone to pick with him and a beef to pick with him because he did take some money from this person's mother for the same thing. Just basically told her pound sand. Um, and it's amazing to me how much information you've had to this interview. I thank you so much for this. I'm probably gonna reach out to you in the future actually for some more interviews, some information you might know, or just do a parody talk with you. I enjoy talking. This is a great conversation we had.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Time. That's why I have to end it at this point. But going forward, people know this. I will give the same opportunity to Andrew Nguyen to come on here and talk, which I don't think he will. I'm sure he'll respond through his own YouTube videos because he can control that. He can manipulate it any way he wants. But again, for the interview, Again, go to the website at one point when this is done. We'll have it on here. You can actually look at Kamil's name. You'll see Kamil Faizi as an owner, CEO is being used at the time for his claim towards what Andrew did for the company, Pinnacle Credit. This company started on the West Coast and it has gone all the way overseas. If you're in doubt, question, you're not sure, you have an account and you're running with him, you're not seeing any productivity. I would say take your contract, go everything at David and everything credit, and he will have an offer to help you get through your credit reconciliation the best he can and with you to work on it. And it's unfortunate because in this world, folks, if you're listening, we get ourselves into situations that we don't like financially, things that are beyond our control, identity theft. And it's sometimes our own responsibility, sometimes it's not. Just remember, we got ourselves there or someone put us there. It is not the credit reconciliations agent or CEO of a company to get you out of it. They're to guide you through it. But at the same point, there's responsibility in that exchange of finances that you give that person to get you to an end game. So know that going forward. So my thanks again to you, Kamil, Faizi. I hope to talk to you again soon. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you
Just
so
so you know,
much.
folks, this is a Trinity Rising production. It was actually hosted today by David Payne over at Everything Credit, and it was produced by The Seeker. Any questions, any further questions you have, or any comments, please do so when this comes out. I thank you very much, all of you today, and going out.